my mind, I was able to think and process. And if I let him get back up, he's going to get back up. I was like, let me finish this right now. And I caught him with that left hook, and then I caught him again with that right hook just to make sure the job was done, because I was calculating his hands wasn't touching the ground and his knees weren't touching the ground, but I know he was still going down. To make sure he wasn't getting back up, I had to let those last two off, man.
Combat Sports Report. Only on SportsGrid.
Sadiq Bey coming off the bench. Alvarado missed a lot of time. Jordan Hawkins has had his moments. So, and remember, they picked out even a guy like Kevon Looney off the bench. So, to me, they could be there. You know what? And it's crazy because last year I was so big on them, and now I'm off of them, but I'm going to say it. Fly Pelican! 7-1. Fly Pelican. Fly Pelican fly. 7-1. What's the...
So here's why JY is great, because sometimes I almost, it's tough when I sell JY, because now what will happen is, right? I mean, listen, it's the middle of the summer. You know what I mean? And what's going to happen in 2 months from now, JY's going to go, now listen, me and K-Dub love these Pelicans. I'm like, oh, when did I say that? When did I don't remember that one, JY.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
So I drafted Aaron Jones in my Dynasty League, but he's like my fourth running back, to let you know that people don't really believe in him. And by the way, when you play in a Dynasty League, I always play to win this year. I don't worry about next year. I want to win now. Flags fly forever. I'll worry about next year. So, but I got Aaron Jones last year, 1138. So he's going to drop that down by almost 50% not to get this total here. Yeah, I think he gets. I'll take the over.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Major League Baseball labor talks hit a fever pitch as Bryce Harper yells expletives at Commissioner Rob Manfred. Plus, could a potential NBA EuroLeague start in London? Hello, everyone, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today, presented by Atlassian. From FOS Studios here in New York City, I'm Baker Machado.
And I'm Renee Washington, and thank you guys so much for joining us each and every weekday as we're chatting the biggest stories in the business and culture of sports. We also have the latest on the horrible shooting at the NFL headquarters here in New York later. But first, let's dive right in to the shoot-around.
Yeah, and let's start on the golf course, Renee, as PGA's Scottie Scheffler has been the most dominant golfer this year, but he's not the highest paid. That title actually goes to LIV's Joaquin Niemann. He surpassed Scheffler's 2025 earnings with $21.9 million. This after his fifth victory of the season at the LIV Golf's UK event. This comes as the weekly purses for LIV Golf competitions will also increase to $30 million in 2026, with the extra $5 million going towards team competition. This all according to the Sports Business Journal.
Yeah, this year's a great example of just the discrepancy in pay in terms of the number one in the world, Scottie Scheffler, who we've compared to Tiger Woods and has broken so many records, won so much, still earning less with that $19.2 million earnings this season.
Close.
To Niemann. It's very close, but Niemann's number about 19 in the world. It's not like we're talking 1 and 2 here. So to look at the fact that now one step further in 2026, LIV Golf is expecting to expand their purses to $30 million, which would pass the Masters, it would pass the U.S. Open and the Players' Championship, which are all $25 million or less. It would make them the highest ticket item financially. So, of course, we don't know the PGA Tour's purse size yet. They have not finalized those details, and we'll still wait to see. It just moves to the direction that golf is going, especially with LIV Golf, really raising the ceiling, essentially, on what purse prices are looking like.
So true. And then to tempt other golfers to leave the PGA Tour if there's not going to be some sort of remedy between those two organizations.
It's a massive 20% increase.
All right, let's move international as NBA Commissioner Adam Silver and Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum are meeting with potential stakeholders in Europe. This for the NBA's planned European Basketball League. This all according to Sportico. And those talks include basketball clubs, banks, private equity firms, and even sovereign wealth funds. And London apparently is the highly coveted city, which could have a team backed by both the NBA and FIBA.
Yeah, and it reminds me of, do you remember the ABA, which I was just watching a Harvard Classic yesterday of Dr. J and the Nets and the ABA. There used to be 2 leagues that the NBA had, or that basketball had in our country, but now they're looking to have a second league internationally.
Correct.
As you mentioned, Europe and also Mexico are 2 of those areas they've been targeting. And to see that Tatum and Silver are having these conversations this week just speaks to the fact that they're very serious about this. Now, Commissioner Adam Silver did mention during the NBA Finals that we're probably a few years away from this actually happening. It will take some time as these are private conversations, apparently publicly that we're finding out information about, but private conversations happening. So to the biggest point of all of this, I think that I like is The goal is with these leagues in conjunction with FIBA to provide financial support, resources to develop Europe's pipeline, but also provide teams more opportunities to develop coaches, players, and just give more playing opportunities, which I'm all for.
Yeah, and let's move to the NFL. A lot to get to here as the Bucs rework the contract of quarterback Baker Mayfield. This will guarantee him $30 million this season. This after he originally had no guarantees after this season. This all according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. Elsewhere, the Broncos and wideout Cortland Sutton have come to terms on a new 4-year, $92 million extension with $41 million in guarantees. And then there's the Christian Wilkins situation with the Raiders. That continues to get more bizarre by the day. As Adam Schefter says, Wilkins allegedly kissed a fellow player on the head who took offense to it and then reported it to the team. But they are saying that that is not the reason why he was released, Renee.
And all of this is coming into today where we still haven't heard any news about Micah Parsons and Terry McLaurin as of this moment. But Baker Mayfield, the length of his contract is the same, but it does at least give him the financial security of what they're investing in him for the future. On the other side, for Cortland Sutton, someone that's been a part of Denver's offense his entire career, I think for him to be locked in with Bo Nix at 29 years old, there were conversations already happening. The reports that the news was going to break, and they finally got the deal done. Both teams, in my opinion, again, take notes for what's going on with Micah and for Terry, getting things right. Now, what's not right on the other side, the Raiders.
Yeah.
If this kiss, whatever happened here, it was brought to HR. Allegedly, this player did report it after the kiss. There were some that said it was seen as lighthearted and joking, but the person that was kissed on the forehead did not take it that way, reported it to HR. But as you mentioned, with the release of Wilkins, there has been nothing regarding this kiss being the factor why, but it has come out that this was another apparently issue as to why they decided to maybe move on from him.
And we should note, Christian Wilkins has worked with the NFLPA to work and try to remedy this, to try to get back and claw back all of the guaranteed money that the Raiders apparently are taking back by releasing
he only had one season of that 4-year, $110 million deal played, so money is owed to him, and maybe with the NFLPA and the grievances, there will be a lot more to come for this, that's for sure.
Oh, well, a horrifying situation here in New York City as a 27-year-old shooter killed 4 people at a commercial building in Midtown Manhattan and was allegedly targeting the NFL's headquarters. This all according to New York City Mayor Eric Adams. So let's take a look at this and more in our main event. And let's bring in FOS reporter Amanda Kristovich, who was at the scene of where this happened. Amanda, what do we know so far?
So at this time, there are 4 people who were killed last night, one of which was a New York City police officer. Another person who NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell announced was an NFL employee, was shot, is in critical condition, but stable, I believe, or was stable as of this morning. The NYPD and local authorities are still working on information about the shooter's motive, but there has been an identification of the shooter, and he wrote in a note that he was in fact targeting the NFL. There were other businesses in the building, but he was looking for the NFL, even though he didn't get to the floors that the NFL was located. And the reason that he was looking into the NFL is because he claimed in his note that he had CTE, which is a neurological disease that many deceased former NFL players have been found to have. And he blamed the NFL for that, and so he was looking for the headquarters.
And there's been more information that's come out saying that the suspect had been dealing with mental health illness as well. And with that note, as you mentioned, targeting the NFL, what do you make of this awful, awful tragedy in that a suspect was unfortunately targeting the NFL and looking to get his brain studied? There's just a lot here to unpack, and it's not good. It's very devastating. What do you make of all of this?
I think the most important thing that was brought to my attention by Dr. Robert Cantu, who is one of the foremost CT experts in the country, he works with the NFL. He has, he is running many studies on this issue. He said to me, I just want anybody to know that if they played football, if they think they're exhibiting the psychiatric symptoms that are often associated with CTE, they should go get help, because there is help to be had. There is help to be received. There are therapies, there are medications, there are treatments. It's not hopeless. And this individual, unfortunately, believed that he had gotten CTE from playing high school football. And instead of seeking assistance and seeking help, he decided to, commit a really, really violent act, and that is unfortunate. He also shot himself in the chest, which is something that other NFL players have done in order to preserve their brains for potential study.
Yeah, Junior Seau, obviously one of the bigger ones as well. What has the NFL's response been to this horrible situation?
Yeah, so NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell put out a statement confirming that one NFL employee was shot, but as I said before, in stable condition. The NFL has basically, and the NFLPA have obviously offered their condolences. Commissioner Goodell told everyone at that NFL HQ office to work from home or to just completely take the day off, and that they're going to be working on security measures. But, you know, beyond that, we don't have a ton of information. There was an athletic report that the NFL employee who was shot was continuing to call his colleagues upstairs in the NFL HQ offices as he was being taken to the hospital to continue to warn them, which is truly remarkable. But other than that, we really haven't heard much from the league.
And I just want to encourage anyone that is feeling as though they're struggling with their mental health or knows someone that's exhibiting those signs to please get the help and the support that you need, because there's always help that can be a resource for you.
Amanda, great reporting. With the last 30 seconds we have, where does this story go from here?
I think the question is, what are the league offices all over the city for all major leagues going to do about potentially increasing security?
Amanda Krisovich, thank you so much. All right, meanwhile, labor talks with baseball continue to heat up, with Bryce Harper reportedly yelling expletives at Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred. That story's next.
Shamar Stewart is having troubles before he even plays a snap. And he's seeing what's happened to the stars of this football team, by the way, right? The Higgins stuff wasn't super smooth. The Hendrickson stuff's not smooth.
But why pay him that big number where you've got Trey Henderson, who's an absolute superstar at edge? You always build a defense. Why haven't the Bengals been back to the Super Bowl in the last 4 years? It's real simple.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Drummond gives you minutes off the bench. I've always been a big Kelly Oubre guy. And Nick Nurse is supposed to be one of the top 5 coaches in the world. You can't tell me that at 12-1, the Philadelphia 76ers aren't at least something you need to consider as a sleeper to make it to the NBA Finals.
Betting above the rim only on SportsGrid.
He'll be your reserve, you know, your extra guy here. Listen, we all need that. I say this all the time about outfielders. Most leagues, I don't know about your league, but we start 5 outfielders. Even if you're in a 10-team league, that's 50 outfielders. Plus you got some guys at utility. Plus you got some guys on reserve. 70 outfielders are gone. All right, so outfielders are extremely valuable here. And Moniak, if he's available, is a nice guy to pick up right now.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
I feel they're all completely justified. You know, the numbers, they're nearly identical. And speaking of identical, I don't know if you saw that one, Craig. That was pretty wild. From winning their first major to winning their 4th major, both Tiger Woods and Scottie Scheffler completed that task in exactly 1,197 days. Both of them, in the exact amount of days, won their 4th major.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today with Renee Washington. I'm Baker Machado. Well, ahead of Major League Baseball's contentious labor talks, Commissioner Rob Manfred has been meeting with players and teams, all to discuss the upcoming negotiations. And apparently his conversations with the Phillies did not go as planned. So for that, let's bring in ESPN content producer and contributor to the Baseball Tonight podcast, Paul Hembakaitis. Paul, good to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us. So tell us a little bit about what we know about this really contentious interaction between Bryce Harper and Commissioner Manfred.
What we know is that Rob Manfred has decided, he has made it a point this year and in recent years to try and connect with players in their clubhouses. He obviously noticed, like the rest of us, that in the last run of CBA negotiations, these two sides very clearly and obviously despise each other. So his thinking, of course, is let me try and get my boots on the ground, talk to these players individually, every single team throughout the course of a year. Last week, it just so happened to be the Phillies' turn. And during that meeting, Bryce Harper, who, of course, is the face of the franchise and one of baseball's loudest voices and a player that we know runs hot, actually went nose to nose with Rob Manfred and dropped some F-bombs, and it got really contentious. In fact, he said something to the effect of, if you want to talk salary cap, then you can get the bleep out of here. And that's not really me paraphrasing. So that's how contentious it got in the moment between Bryce Harper and Rob Manfred. And I suppose on one hand, you might say, look, it's a flippant comment made by a player that runs hot in the moment. I would argue that it's far more symbolic. In fact, it might be a microcosm of the extent to which these two sides still hate each other and the fact that there's very little goodwill between the two.
Yeah, and Rob Manfred, of course, barked back. He did not stand down. He also has been very adamant about the fact that, in his opinion, there's a gap between the players' union as well as the players themselves. And so his tour of going around talking about the salary cap is his way of trying to bridge that gap. What are your thoughts? Because it seems as though the players are ready for a lockout potentially in December 2026 when the CBA runs out. Will we get a lockout in Major League Baseball if things continue on this path?
Most definitely if things continue on this path. But I have to say that the way that you characterize Rob Manfred's talking point, albeit sort of contrary to what the players might themselves say aloud, is 100% right. Look, the three of us know these players have done an unsatisfactory job of rowing in the same direction over the last several years under Tony Clark's leadership. That's why there was such a disconnect between the rank and file and the members of the union that are representing them at the last round of CBAs, because as baseball's economic disparity amongst its teams has grown, so too has the economic disparity between the top players and the median players and the bottom players. Baseball's economic disparity is massive when it comes to the team side and the player side. And so when Bryce Harper says aloud that we're prepared to set out 162 games, it's very reasonable for Bryce Harper to feel that way because he's playing on a $330 million contract. None of his descendants ever have to work another day in their lives if they don't want to. But I'm not so sure that a player making $800,000 on the minimum feels the same way that Bryce Harper does. And candidly, there are a lot more of those than Bryce Harper's. While Major League Baseball team valuations are soaring, the median salary is merely creeping up little by little, inch by inch. And that's unsatisfactory for the players who 2 rounds ago were raked over the coals in the latest CBA and most recently lost, but you might say by decision. So it's no surprise that matters are this contentious. And Rob Manfred is doing whatever he can within his power try and get players to understand his perspective. But of course, he's a person who can't exactly be described as a good faith actor because he's representing the owners.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what Tony Clark, the players chief, is sort of alluding to here with Rod Manfred's conversations that he's having. But I guess on the salary cap front, we forget one of the longest baseball work stoppages we had was because of a salary cap conversation here. But one thing I keep hearing a lot, Paul, is maybe there's a floor, a salary floor, and that's the middle ground that will appease maybe the players and the owners here. Do you think that might be the thing that saves the day here for these negotiations?
Absolutely. Nail on head. That is by far the best made point one can make in regards to this discussion. The salary cap, we know it's verboten. To me, this is an ancillary talking point when it comes to the contentious nature of these negotiations right now. What matters far more is the creation of the salary floor, and a firm one, as you just described. How else can you explain the fact that the Miami Marlins entered the season with a $67 million payroll while at the same time receiving $70 million in rev share? Help me square that circle. The CBA doesn't allow it. They're finding a way to circumvent it. I also went through each of the 4 major leagues across this country and looked at the economic disparity between the very top and the very bottom of each one by percentage. In the NHL, there's a 54% gap. In the NFL, there's a 62% gap. In the NBA, there's a 66% gap. In the Major League Baseball, there's a 333% gap. There is nothing of this kind that applies to the other sports. Now, baseball still has, relatively speaking, excellent competitive balance and has for quite some time because of the rev share model and because small market teams are super smart and have found ways to win. That being said, in my judgment, a salary floor when it comes to a team cap, and the raising of the minimum player salary from $760,000 to $1 million, to me, would be the most important thing that I would care about if I were a player, because I'm not worried if Bryce Harper's happy or not with the CBA, because Bryce Harper's making $330 million, whereas he is by far an exception to the rule, not your median voter or your base, if you will.
Yeah, and this week, as we're looking at the trade deadline, it's been a lot of other headlines that have really been taking over the baseball world, including this one. But another massive headline we have to get into with you, Hembo, is the news that came out. Emmanuel Clase, one of the best closers in the game, Cleveland Guardians closer, has been placed on non-disciplinary paid leave through August 31st as there's a sports betting investigation going on. What is the latest around one of the best in the game now being possibly involved in this massive implications of sports betting?
No, you're 100% right. It is massive. And we're talking about one of the 5 best closers in Major League Baseball. To me, this story is massive and candidly is being underreported. The things that Luis Ortiz, his teammate, of course, and Emmanuel Clase might well have done. And again, they're on leave right now. The investigation is ongoing. All the caveats apply. But given the fact that there was no pushback from the Guardians or the union, that tells me that there's something rotten in Denmark. That tells me that the Major League Baseball investigation, at least preliminarily, has a little bit more fire than smoke. All right, that's just my perspective on things in terms of reading the tea leaves. There's plenty of speculation that we can have in terms of the way in which he could have profited or a bad actor could have profited from prop bets. But there is no question that if Major League Baseball players are intentionally doing things, nefarious things, to earn money for themselves or somebody else, we're talking about a massive scandal. We're talking about 2 players that will never step foot on a Major League Baseball field again. We're talking about things that are far worse than what caused Pete Rose's lifetime ban. And so Major League Baseball has no choice but to wrap its arms around this and nip it in the bud, of course, to overuse cliches, because it's going to continue to make billions of dollars from gambling companies. It's going to continue to gain popularity amongst young fans, especially by gambling on baseball, and thus it has absolutely no choice but to ensure that this does not continue to happen, because they're certainly not going to terminate their relationship with the gambling company.
Yeah, Paul, good perspective. Paul Hembakaitis, ESPN Baseball Tonight podcast contributor, joining us. Thank you so much, Paul, for your insight. We got more Front Office Sports Today coming your way right after this.
Drummond gives you minutes off the bench. I've always been a big Kelly Oubre guy. And Nick Nurse is supposed to be one of the top 5 coaches in the world. You can't tell me that at 12-1, the Philadelphia 76ers aren't at least something you need to consider as a sleeper to make it to the NBA Finals.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
He's just only 2,300 points behind. So even if he does win at Memphis, he's still going to be behind Scottie Scheffler in the points by 300. So why? I mean, I want Scottie Scheffler to show up in Memphis, but does he need to? If Rory's not showing up and the 3rd place guy, even if he wins, isn't going to pass him?
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
One big problem for NBC, too many on-air cooks for the coverage, particularly on the weekends. Having 4 on-air teams separate time, divide the time, was really outrageous. You had Mike Tirico and his partner. You had Dan Hicks, NBC Sports' lead golf commentator, and his partner. You had Steve Sampson, Golf Channel, and his partner. And you had Terry Gann, who, by the way, if you don't know, is going to become an NBA play-by-play voice.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Talk to any player. Hey, used to get 18 sacks, got 7 last year. Maybe it's a defensive scheme. I don't like it at the end of the season. Oh, he's got to earn his trust back. No, he doesn't. Just show up at camp the next year and start to dominate once again, and everybody will forget. You're telling me in game number 1, the Miami Dolphins going deep, Tyreek Hill, 6 catches, 144 yards and 2 touchdowns. Oh, man, we're still working in process. No, you're not. The minute you get back on the field, dap it up, get after it, and have a good season.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Back, everyone, at Front Office Sports Today with Renee Washington and Baker Machado, and an update to a story we told you about a few weeks ago involving a former security guard who is suing the Phoenix Suns. So let's bring in Asset Class newsletter writer Ben Horney. Of course, you can sign up for the Asset Class newsletter on frontofficesports.com. So, Ben, what do we now know about this lawsuit?
So what has happened here, Gene Traylor, he's the former director of security, I think was his title for the Suns. He sued them, like you said, a few weeks back, maybe a month ago. He was fired after the lawsuit was filed, and that recently came out. And there's been some kind of strange back and forth statements now from the Suns and then the lawyer who's representing him. So the Suns issued a statement saying that the lawyer has decided to publicize Gene Traylor's firing, and that's kind of how they're choosing to frame their response to him being fired. The attorney hit back with a statement saying, like, we didn't publicize this, like, we're not doing that at all. We're just going through the motions with our lawsuit, and, we're looking for justice. That's basically where we're at.
Yeah, and it has come out. The Suns have now made a statement in regards to his termination, but it seems like there's a gap or misunderstanding in even how the firing became public because it's not supposed to be public knowledge. What do you know in your conversations regarding how the termination of Gene Traylor became public?
It's kind of unclear. Like, it feels like it just came out that he was fired and that's what's having the news bubble up now. But from what I can tell, he was fired not long after the suit was filed. And in his suit, he alleged that they basically wanted to fire him and that they didn't necessarily have good cause to do so at first, so they demoted him. He accused them of retaliation, discrimination. He also said, if you guys remember, he said that they ignored his urgent security concerns, including that the arena was not safe and that they needed to take measures to increase security at the arena. The Suns are facing a number of lawsuits from former employees. There's actually one other one that recently happened that I'm going to be digging into today because I'm writing about this whole thing. Or not the Suns, the Mercury, which are owned by the same Matt Ishbia, who owns the Suns. They were sued by their former interim coach, Nikki Blue. I don't know the full details of the allegations, but it was similar, like discrimination and that sort of thing. So I'll be finding more about that later today. But she will be at least, I think, the 5th former employee of this group to sue.
In what time span? It seems like
and
a
it's
very
all
close
recently.
time span.
It all takes place since Matt Ishbia bought the team from Robert Sarver, which really is interesting because Sarver was such an embattled owner and really viewed negatively, and it felt like it was this opportunity for them to turn the page when Ishbia bought them. But it seems like they're still on the same page.
And with the few seconds we have left with you, one of the more salacious allegations in this from the security guard is that one of the Ishbia brothers, I believe, had been dating Sophie Cunningham, WNBA star, when she played for the Mercury. Do we know anything more about that?
So his allegation, it wasn't one of the Ishbias, it was that Josh Bartelstein, the CEO of the Suns.
Yes, thank you.
And there has been nothing else of that. It wasn't even an allegation in the original lawsuit, although it did kind of blow up on the internet and become a whole thing for a while. That has bubbled down, which honestly is good because it was pretty gossipy and there's no way for any of us to know whether there's any truth behind that. And this guy's actual allegations and these ongoing allegations against the Suns about how they're running their organization and the Mercury, that seems to stand out to me as the more important thing.
Yeah, definitely concerning, looking at Phoenix as a whole, what's going on with the Sun and the Mercury.
By the way, you can get updates to this story in Ben's newsletter, The Asset Class. Of course, you can sign up for that at frontofficesports.com. Ben Horney, thank you so much. And let's see what's bubbling over at the FOS water cooler. Well, Renee, remember when new Lakers signee DeAndre Ayton said that he heard Luka Doncic look shredded in the gym? Well, it's true, at least according to this new photo spread in Men's Health. Luka tells the magazine that he works out twice a day, and his diet consists of a gluten-free, low-sugar diet complete with 250 grams of protein and 1 almond milk-fueled shake a day. So, Renee, what do we think of this new shredded Luka?
Well, the first thing I know is that Dallas was never going to get this version of Luka. It took and all the drama for him to be on his revenge tour. But listen, this 26-year-old, as you mentioned, drastically changed lifestyle aspects of his diet, his training, his speed and conditioning, and he's really ramped things up. He's also on a media tour right now, doing some appearances, like that magazine spread. And so with August 2nd coming up, which is when he becomes eligible to sign his second max contract of a 4-year, $229 million extension, that's what this really is for, because if he doesn't sign it, he becomes a free agent next season. So I think for LeBron and the Lakers, they're getting the best version of Luka, and he's really showing off the guns. Plus, he's a top 3 MVP favorite on some betting sites. What more could you ask for? Are you not entertained?
I'm hitting the gym as we speak. That's going to do it for this edition of Front Office Sports today. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, God, I need to go get the Luka work in.